When it comes to people and critics, there seems to be a large disconnect between who's telling us what's good and what we actually like. It seems to be a universally agreed upon thing when you look at user scores versus what critics like. And I think one of the best examples of this is Doctor Who Season 11. When you look at Metacritic and user scores on this website, you see a resounding score of 78 amongst 10 critics, which means that's the average that they all hold. Then you see for the user score, 321 ratings with a score level of 2.7 as the average. Now this is quite amusing. And we've seen this so many times. We've seen this with The Last Jedi. We see it with Star Trek Discovery. We see it with movies like Venom, Aquaman, and so on and so on. It seems like what the people enjoy isn't the same as what critics enjoy. And it's not just in movies. We see it in comic books. We see it in video games. We see it everywhere. What I tend to believe is a lot of these people keep their jobs based on tongue bathing. Tongue bathing is the same as kissing the booty, stuff like that. You really have to go look at user ratings if you want to get an accurate kind of level on what people actually are thinking about a show. And it's funny. So we go down here and we see the truth. And we can also go over to Rotten Tomatoes, where it's actually quite worse. 94% certified fresh. But you go over to the audience score, only 23% of people like it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go through some of these. We're going to look at some of the actual critics things, and then we're going to look at what the audience is saying. And we're going to see that there's a stark difference between what people in Hollywood like and what the average American likes. All right, so let's take a look at some of these critic scores. And I want you to tell me what the resounding theme is here. It's not going to be hard to catch. It's that Jodie Whittaker is so great that we finally have a female doctor. That's why the season is so fresh. It's kind of like a masking of how terrible the show really is. The fact that this season, the first to star a woman in 55 years, was so interested in how long it takes to effect change and how many people have to suffer in the process, played like a response to the history of the show. Whittaker is perfectly cast, and her immediate command of the Doctor's vocabulary and innate sense of wit is obvious. I am now too old for the Time Lord's adventures. A great weariness came upon me as she explained her sonic screwdriver to her charisma-free new pals, but still, I couldn't be more glad that the Doctor is at least a girl. Whittaker's Doctor has arrived. She's not just made her mark, as each Doctor does, but she's raised the bar, and she's brilliant, just brilliant. A Doctor for our age. Whittaker's Doctor is more cosmic detective than superhero, as you could expect in the best way from the creator of Broadchurch. The season has been marked by change, mostly for the good, though some of the determinant of the overall package. That said, the show's gotten back to doing what it does best with new flair. Doctor Who is off to a brilliant start. The stories are firmly anchored, and the characters' offbeat sense of humor, although the comedy doesn't always land, Whittaker's breathless zeal can grate sometimes. So, as you see, it's nothing but tongue bathing. And if we go over to here, to Metacritic, we get the same kind of stuff. As the first with what hopes will be a long line of female doctors, Whittaker is funny, energetic, and full of joy. Whittaker, 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 so on and so on and so on. It paints an interesting picture, doesn't it, about what seems to be the more important thing to these critics. You guessed it, agenda. But what do the people have to say? What do the actual people who care and make the show happen have to say? PC garbage. SJWs have hijacked the show. Stop preaching and start entertaining. Worst season ever. This does not feel like Doctor Who, and the PC crap is killing the show. Do not waste time watching this. And this is a really good point right here. First, clearly, the Rotten Tomatoes staff are being paid for good ratings. Secondly, the entire season was PC garbage. That's probably why this new incarnation needs so many sidekicks. I'm surprised they didn't show an Asian person for good measure. Or do they hate Asians? The writing was complete crap because they had an agenda they were trying to push on the public, and rightfully, the public rejected the show. Like the saying goes, get woke, go broke. I just feel bad for the cast because they're all affiliated with this trash in the future. This is not Doctor. This is not the Doctor. So much self-doubt and reliance on the companions that is baffling considering he has more knowledge than the whole Earth combined. The show has been turned into nothing more than PC propaganda, very little sci-fi, and very little to enjoy. Missy was a better master than this Doctor. Now, I find this point really interesting, and they bring up a very, very good point. This has more PC propaganda and very little sci-fi. Now, I'm not a big fan of Doctor Who. I'm kind of looking at this as more of a cultural thing than anything, and I'm well aware that the show is heavily based in sci-fi. That is a very good point that Carl D has brought up here. It's more PC propaganda than sci-fi. What have been some of the themes of that show? We had her hanging out with Rosa Parks. She blasted on King James, which comes off to me, because he was a bumbling buffoon in it. And I don't care what you say about who he was historically. The fact of the matter is that the man made the Bible what it is today. And to take shots at him really speaks volumes to me. Now, they've taken on sexism and other things. That's not what people want in a TV show. I don't get when they're going to realize that people are sick of it. And I feel like it's only a matter of time until Hollywood just kind of collapses completely. And it'll be a great day because then maybe we'll finally start getting some real entertainment again. Far too PC. For me, the Doctor will always be a man. Nothing to do with women being on the lead role. Heck, Wonder Woman is a good film. I love Miss Marple and Jennifer Fletcher and Jessica Fletcher, Murder, She Wrote. I used to watch these series all the time. It has to do with my hero here being a man and now as a woman. Call it what you like. I just like this change. I don't think that that's an unfairly based criticism. I mean, it's like, hey, Peter Parker is this guy now it's a woman. Now, here's an actual, this one seems to be a little bit more middle ground, so I'm going to read this one too, because I think this one is a more balanced one, because we got a lot of anger ones here, but let's listen, because this one's fairly objective. To say the stories are boring seems to be a bit of a childish complaint. However, the sense of wonder, which has been a characteristic of Doctor Who since the beginning, is completely absent. The 13th Doctor is set to be a rather static character despite the apparent likeness of Smith's remarkably successful take. Furthermore, her attempts to be intimidating as a character are laughably diminishing the fundamental layers of the Doctor to be funny and lighthearted, yet scary and even a bit dark. Her only change in dynamics is from happy to insincerely apologetic to happy to annoyingly unintimidating and happy again. There is no death, no continuity. And no, the Fez doesn't count. Although Dalek is minimally redeeming at best. The companions are not inquisitive enough. It was exciting to see previous companions figure out who the Doctor is, why they are the way they are, etc. To be fair, there isn't much to ask about the perpetually happy Doctor, presumably because she is so unforgivably human. Blah, blah, blah. I know that the Doctors have panicked before in the face of an enemy, but as the audience, we are always aware of this, that this is a sign that they are about to do something clever. When 13 panics, it does not carry the same suspense. It's rather pathetic, especially when she admits that she's panicking. Her delivery is far too human. The companions are as flat as the Doctor herself. Walsh is the only redeeming character. I honestly would have stayed a bit if there was a companion bridge between the Doctors as Roge and Claire were. Without this, there is absolutely nothing about the show that is Doctor Who to me, except the sonic screwdriver and TARDIS, which fell victim to awful design. Now this you can tell is someone that was trying to give it a chance, and look what happened. This is an overall theme of it. boring. Was looking forward to this series, but it's been such a disappointment. The stories have been really boring, and the aliens either absurd or practically missing. Throughout, the spiders were very well done. Watched Doctor Who all my life, 45, and this was the weakest yet. After Missy, who was superb as the Master, the idea of the Doctor and the TARDIS as women seemed a fantastic new direction. Was hoping Missy would come back in the series. Sadly, no. Jodie just doesn't pull it off as the Doctor. She has no presence and behaves like a teenager. Not someone who is incredibly wise and thousands of years old. Has Jodie ever watched Doctor Who before? Me and my wife sat through all the new episodes, including the New Year special, and yeah, we both think it was bad. What a great pity. And it just goes on and on. These are the real reviews. In effect, it's the people versus Doctor Who. We see shows and movies try to do this all the time, and it just fails and fails because we don't want to be preached to all the time. So anyway, I just thought this would be a fun video to go through what people actually think about this show. Why don't you let me know what you think about this in the comments? Like and subscribe. Check out the links in the description. I got a link to my Patreon. Got a link to my streaming. Also got a link to a pretty cool comic. So give that a look if you want. It's very cheap, cost effective. Guy's only asking for $6 for the digital version. And I think if you're a fan of manga and anime, you'll really like it. I'd really like to see this guy be successful so he keeps making good comic books. Anyway, I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.